Hey, greetings founders. Welcome to Feel the Boot, the science of startups. Now, I'm Lance Control, your host. This is a bit of a special episode. When I talk to founders, they come in, they do office hours with me, and they've seen a number of episodes of Feel the Boot. Often we end up spending a fair amount of time talking about all that stuff behind me right now. And they're very curious about what they are, where they came from, what the stories are. And so I thought I would spend today doing a quick tour of the things behind me, as well as give you a quick behind the scenes of what my production setup looks like, the kind of equipment I'm using, and so forth. Should be short. If you're just here for the startup founder content, then feel free to skip this episode, but I hope you find it interesting. Probably the element of my background that gets the most attention is the signed picture of Darth Vader. That's signed by David Prowse. He was the actor in the suit, and I picked that up, as I did many of the things in my office, at Comic-Con in San Diego, because I'm that kind of nerd. There's another item in here. In fact, the other Star Wars thing is in the corner. That's a Art Deco drawing of Darth Vader's TIE fighter flying across the Death Star. Again, something I picked up directly from the artist at Comic-Con. Then there's these two sculptures, one over each shoulder. So this is one of those sculptures that I've got behind me. It's sort of, I guess, some kind of a kung fu spear swinging cyber bug made out of nuts and bolts and spoons and all welded together. And it's somewhat similar to this dragon on the other side, also made out of screws, bolts, pieces of motorcycle chain, and so forth. And of course, just out of frame down the shelf behind me, I actually have a huge collection of Dungeons & Dragons miniature figures, which you never get to see normally, and haven't seen a lot of use during COVID, but hopefully they'll go back into action soon. Another pattern that people have picked up on is my interest in Vikings, and that's because I have a very strong Scandinavian history. So one of the items, this needlepoint, was actually done by my grandfather, and I inherited it after he passed away, and so that's of strong sentimental value to me. The lithograph of the Viking ships in the fjord, I picked that up from an artist who was making it in Bergen in Norway, and I just thought it was a particularly interesting visual. So this is what I'm looking at when I'm recording. You see the camera up there on the left. I drape a cloth across my monitor so that I'm not getting a bunch of reflections off the big sheet of glass back into my eyes. You can see I've got also a blanket in the background to absorb some of the sound, try to knock down the echoes just a notch. I also have a couple of large soft boxes to try to give me even illumination, since the overhead lights tend to just give me a shiny forehead. The camera I'm using is a Sony ZV-1 mirrorless. It's really optimized for doing vlogging. And on top of that, I have a Rode shotgun mic, which helps with some of my recordings. But in general, I'm sticking with a lapel mic because it does a better job of knocking down the background noise in this room at the distance I stand from the camera, which is maybe about 6 feet. So all the audio that you hear in all of these videos is recorded on this lapel mic here. Hopefully that wasn't too deafening. And sent over just over a wire to this Zoom N1H recorder. And then I synchronize everything later in Final Cut Pro on my Mac. And that's where I bring it together, put in all the titles, do all the transitions and so forth, bring in the background music, everything else. Now when you see me do an interview, I started off just using Zoom, but lately I've been using a program called Riverside.fm. And that's a really nice program because it actually does double-headed recording. So it records my audio and video locally on my computer, theirs on their computer, all runs inside a browser, and then allows me to synchronize them later. So you're not limited to the kind of quality you can get over a streaming Zoom connection, which quite frankly kind of sucks. Anyway, a little bit of a different episode this time, but I thought you might enjoy just a quick glance around the environment where I record this. This is in fact just my office. That's exactly what's behind me every single day. If we ever have a Zoom call, you're gonna see exactly the same thing behind me as you see on this camera. Anyway, Till next time, ciao.